there are functioning addicts. A lot of us could be functioning addicts as well. So I'm going to show you that some of these symptoms that you are having actually is because there is a subtle, very subtle onset of addiction. It is so insidious, you don't even know it's happening to you. You don't even know it's happening. So today I'm going to try to throw some light on this. There are components in the food that will addict you. And yes, it's a product. You are consuming products, not food. And because you're consuming a product, you become addicted to it. There's chemicals in it. There's substances in it. The formation of it has changed. The consistency of the food has changed. And hence, it's no longer real food. Processed foods cause high insulin levels. We've talked about that in my previous talks. It causes weight gain. It causes metabolic syndrome, toxicity and inflammation in the body, intestinal dysbiosis. What does intestinal dysbiosis mean? Which means that the bacteria in your intestines, they change as a result of what's getting down there into the stomach and into the intestines. So because your bacteria change, you change. Because you are a symbiotic relationship between your physiology and the physiology of the bacteria. As a result of their changes, can you get addicted? Yes, you can. Are there chemicals released by those bacteria that get released into your bloodstream and can affect your physiology? And the answer is a definite yes. Because remember that almost 50% of the micronutrients that are floating around in your body have been either manipulated or produced by the bacteria in your gut, and then it gets into your bloodstream. So don't think that your physiology is just your physiology. It's your physiology is a sum total of yours plus all the physiology of the bacteria and everything that it's doing. You're a symbiotic relationship. So that's very important. If we change your biochemistry and you change your metabolism, weight loss is going to happen. Because it's not a weight loss program. You're basically changing your physiology and you're changing your hormones, and weight loss is just a side effect of it. And automatically your weight goes to where it needs to go to. This is of utmost importance. We should be telling this to all the children who are watching. Processed foods, they are not found in nature. Not found in nature. So anything that's in a packet, a box, manufactured in a factory, that comes ready-made, that's a product. Are you going to continue to consume products? Because if you do, there's a good chance you're going to get addicted. Combination of substances that are not found in nature. The body is superbly designed to handle nutrients in certain combinations as they come in. For example, I've talked to you about fiber before. I told you that there are two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. So when the fiber is mixed in with the food that's naturally produced, the fiber goes in, it forms a little mesh in the duodenum so that the sugar that's mixed in and the carbohydrates that's mixed in with the food does not get exposure to the K cells in the duodenum. So the duodenum doesn't see all that sugar, so it doesn't send a signal via GIP to the pancreas to say, hey, give me all the pancreatic juices you got. Give me all the insulin you possibly got. It doesn't do that. There's a small reaction. So the pancreas produces a small amount of insulin. Why? Because the fiber prevented that sudden surge in the insulin production. And then as the food goes down, it slowly gets absorbed. So there's this nice slow dissipation of the nutrients into the bloodstream. That doesn't happen when you eat foods without fiber, without its natural state. You see, nature makes these packages because it's designed that way. And we then have our body, because we evolved in this way 2.5 million years ago with those nutrients, to be able to handle those in that package, the way it comes. There's no such thing as flour out there in nature. So what happens is that this powderized stuff gets right in there and creates this tremendous surge in hormones because it doesn't know what to do with it. This is totally unnatural. Now, if you give pellets to the rats, their response in hormones, their weight, activity, everything is totally different than if you give them the same food in a powderized form. Same grams, same weight, but in a powderized way. So the more refined the product is, the greater the release all of a sudden. So all flour, in my opinion, all flour should be avoided. Not only is the flour bad for you for this reason, but it stripped off everything, the endosperm. You took out the germ, you took out the outer bran, and you're left with that pure carbohydrate, and then you ground it way, way down. And that's what flour is. Flour is a survival food. It was made so that you extract all these things so that now it can last forever. So now you can put it in a sack and you can get it through winter, and you can actually survive through winter. It's a survival food, but now we use it every day. Every day we're addicted to this, and I'll show you how we're addicted to it. You all know that sugar is a preservative. That's why you add sugar to everything. All processed foods have sugar. Why do they have sugar in them? It's not just for your taste, it's because they also want to preserve the food. It's a great preservative. You put something in molasses or sugar, it's going to stay there, right? So it's a preservative as well. Salt is a preservative too. So all these preservatives and all the chemicals that they add to it, the antioxidants and everything else, they all are not unnatural. If you take rats, I know we are not rats, but I do talk about rats a lot because I read so many studies on rats. And if you give them their food and they're mixed with vegetable seed oils, they're more likely to become addicted to it. By the way, I'll tell you something else. When I was a fellow, we used to do research, and on these rats, you want to create a model for cancer, we used to give them vegetable oils. It grows cancers. Vegetable, if you see the processing of vegetable oil, I promise you, you will not consume vegetable oil anymore. Just go see how it's made. All the chemicals they use and everything and how it's created is terrible. So, full of omega-6. And I think that this is one of the main reasons why a lot of populations who should not be having coronary arteries are having coronary arteries. And the one that, of course, is very close to me is because my ancestry is from India. And in India, they use vegetable seed oils now instead of using the previous animal oil, which was ghee. And I think this is one of the main reasons, combined with a high carbohydrate processed food diet, that in India today, we have the highest incidence of coronary arteries in the world. It's vegetable seed oils. And they need to change their diet today to go back to eating the oils that they used to eat before. The wrong information about fats, because someone had to blame something because the president died of a heart attack. And then along comes somebody who wants to make a name for himself. Governor McGovern. And then, Ansel Keys had to make a big name about the fat thing, so he was the one who blamed it, and then these people took it to the legislation and made it rule now. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then the nation is so good. They followed it to the T. And here we are today. So we now know from animal studies and from other functional imaging studies that there are neurological changes that occur in the brain. Wait a second, you mean to say your brain is being rewired by the processed food? And the answer is yes. So along comes the sugar, and you take it in, it goes straight to the dopamine center, and you get a little surge. I feel good. You rewarded yourself, you feel fantastic. Next time you eat the sugar, it's going to take a bigger amount of sugar, larger load, to get that same rise. The third time you're going to do it, again, more and more. So you develop tolerance. So now it takes more and more to feel good. And that's how you become addicted to it. Now the body, anytime you get something, there's a counter-regulatory mechanism in the body. So if you're getting the reward, then guess what? You're going to pay a price. And what price are you going to pay afterwards? So it's a seesaw, right? So you get some reward because you ate all this. Well, guess what? There's a buildup of chemicals in your brain that are going to do the opposite thing so that eventually get balanced. So the good, you're going to feel bad also. So there's a time lapse in which those chemicals that would make you feel lousy, depressed, tired, sleepy, all those molecules accumulated as the counterbalance. But if you still keep giving yourself a high every few hours, these on this side just continue to accumulate. This was beautifully illustrated in a book. It's called The Dopamination. And I encourage you all to go and read this book. It's fantastic. But it shows you how the constant dopamine hit that we are getting from constantly eating processed foods and all those calories is causing this dopamine center to become less tolerant. So you need more and more stimulation, and you build up all these chemicals. Now what happens is if you don't eat that, you got all these chemicals that are built up, which are the opposite of reward. You feel lousy, you feel depressed, you feel irritable, you can't concentrate on anything. Basically, you're paying the price of that you just had the reward. And why do you get all those rewards? One, you ate the wrong foods. Number two, you ate them too frequently. It's all to do with the brain and how the brain reacts to these things. Now, in a true addiction, what also happens is that there are electrical pathways in the brain that connect from one part of the brain to the other. So the dopamine center has rostral connections that go to the prefrontal cortex, for example. Now, if you're an addict, do you want to have a lot of insight? Does the body want you to have insight into your addiction? That, oh yeah, I'm an addict and I shouldn't be doing this and this is wrong and I'm feeling this. No, it doesn't want you. It wants to make you dumb. So what it does, it downregulates your prefrontal cortex. So when you're eating all these foods, it's just like a junkie who's taking cocaine. He doesn't know. He's got no insight because he's got no frontal lobe function. He has no reasoning power. He has no willpower either to stop. Because his brain has truly changed as a result of the addiction. There are true structural changes and biochemical changes in his brain because of this addiction. Now, whether you're taking cocaine, amphetamine, heroin, cocaine, I already mentioned, sugar, preservatives, all the same. Caffeine, all the same. They go to the same center. The brain doesn't know the difference. So the after effect is the same thing. You get that addictive effect, frontal lobe function goes down, your entire brain has actually truly changed. The stress pathway, which is the opposite pathway of the reward, causes cortisol secretion. And it also causes other hormonal secretions as well, and creates a stress pathway. All these comfort foods cause stress also. So you may feel comfort for a while. Well, guess what? You're going to be really stressed out later on. You feel really good. There's always a price to pay. Your energy goes down. After 2 to 3 hours, your energy goes down. There's always a price to pay. The body is a homeostatic mechanism, right? Homeostasis, which means that there's a seesaw. Everything has to balance out. You get a little reward, there's a price to pay afterwards. Now, the evidence of addiction of high caloric density foods. 3 dopaminergic pathways are activated in addiction, identical to regular drug addiction. The mesolimbic system, the mesoacumen system, the nigrostriatal pathways. So basically, you want more of it. Your whole functioning changes. You crave for things. Your actions go for it as well. Just like a real drug addict. And your decision making and execution of function changes. See? You become an automatic person. It is so stealth. It just creeps on people. They don't even know this is happening to them. They don't. So here's a little picture of just the kind of diagrams that connect to the prefrontal cortex and where all these chemicals work. And by the way, the brain does not know the difference. Whether it's alcohol, caffeine, whether it is amphetamines, cocaine, or sugar. It knows no difference. Doesn't know. Guys, this bothers me about sometimes what we're seeing in our schools as well. We need to be careful what we're feeding our children. Decreased attention span has been noted in binge eaters as well. Loss of impulse control. This is very, very serious stuff. So I threw this slide in there. It says addiction severity index. So how bad can this possibly be? So processed foods are consumed in large amounts over a longer period of time. So you start eating more and more and more of it. There's a persistent desire or unsuccessful attempts to cut down. I mean, they try to cut down, but they can't. That's an addiction. A greater deal of time is spent in activities necessary to get the processed foods and consume them, and a greater amount of time to recover from the effects. You get cravings, strong desires, and then you get recurrent food consumption causes failure to fulfill obligations. You know, folks, sometimes I've seen people, it affects their work. Their food habits are affecting their work, home, or school. So it actually affects them. It affects relationships as well. Husbands and wives argue. They have problems because of the food, because of the behavior and eating habits. So they have persistent or recurrent interpersonal problems. Social, occupational, and recreational activities are given up because now they just can't do it. And they don't get enjoyment from that anymore. Because the only enjoyment they're going to get is from the processed food. So what happens? It downregulates the enjoyment from other things. So one of the things I tell my patients, of course, is find something that you really used to like to do and start doing more of that. Because when they start doing more of that, they'll get less pleasure out of the consumption of processed foods. Because honestly, those who are already addicted, you'll notice, you'll ask them, you used to play a lot of tennis before, you used to go on this before, you used to go on to yeah, I don't do that anymore. I used to do a lot of boating before, I don't do that anymore. And you'll notice that their lives have changed. Their lives have changed. It affects so many things. Because I told you your frontal lobe went to sleep, right? You blame, shame, and deny. Of course you do. Which drug addict do you know, or gambler, or someone with other food addictions will plainly come out and admit everything? They're going to deny it. Of course, it's part and parcel of it. So you do a fasting program like I tell people to do, your cravings go away. Your addictions go away. And then you detoxify yourself. Your toxins get released from your body. And remember that it takes 3, 4, 5 days for all your hormones to start coming back down. Your leptin levels, which you got leptin resistance, for example, takes a while to come down. Your adiponectin levels need to slowly come back up again. All these take time. They're not going to happen in one day. So this is very important. So I say that, these relapses that people have are to be expected. But sometimes people get a relapse and then they give up. How many times do I see this day in and day out in my office? Doc, I tried. I felt terrible. I couldn't do it. After I was eating once a day for 3 days, and on the 4th day, I just started eating 4 times a day again. I just couldn't do it. Now, maybe the frontal lobe didn't help them, but you know what? You get more willpower after you do a 3-day water fast. So lately, I've been telling a lot of my patients who have this problem, and when I suspect that they have some form of addiction, I tell them, give me a 3-day water fast. Now, you can't just jump into a 3-day water fast. I make them skip a few meals first. I kind of make them change their diet. And then under medical supervision, I tell them, okay, next week I want a 3-day water fast from you. And that breaks the cycle. That seems to break the cycle. A 3-day water fast. So you will find that after 3 days, on the 4th day, he's got more willpower. Well, guess how did he get the willpower? It just came. He made connections. That frontal lobe is waking up again. The connections are being made again. Those rostral connections from your dopamine center going forward, you actually have neuroplasticity. And of course, fasting increases your brain-derived neurotropic factors, so I know all the chemistry behind that too. But basically, the long and short of it is you change as a person. By doing that 3-day water fast, getting out of the addiction, and your brain actually changes. Your brain actually changes structurally, and of course, how you think changes as well. So now all of a sudden you have more willpower. Oh, I can do this. Okay, so muted taste. Vegetables taste bitter to the individuals. Yeah, of course, if you're addicted to sugars and other bad foods, and you hate the taste, of vegetables. Financial problems, relationship problems, social problems, employment problems, physical illness, mental illness, crystallized sugar, crystal. You can preserve them for years. That's why it all happened. It happened for convenience. This didn't happen because it was good for you. And then, of course, everyone got addicted to it. Frying foods in vegetable oils, which are addictive, processed fats, and I already told you that they also are addictive, and they cause stimulation of the receptors. Now, interchangeability. I got to tell you about this because look, guys, I'm not talking about one addiction. It's poly-addiction. You're addicted to a number of things at the same time. This is awful, and you switch from one addiction to the other very easily. Because look, the dopamine center, I told you, does not know the difference. So you can easily switch from one addiction to the other. So let's say that you're a smoker and you're addicted to smoking. When you quit, you're going to start eating too much. And then when you quit that, you quickly go on to amphetamines. And if you quit amphetamines, it's so easy to get onto cocaine, just like that. If you're a caffeine addict, it's very easy to become a food addict. If you're a food addict, it's very easy to become a drug addict. These are all very interchangeable. Guys, this is really scary. I often wondered, why we have an epidemic of all these narcotics and addictions and everything else. Is it just availability? Availability is one of them. But the other thing is susceptibility. If we create a susceptible population, A population that's going to be susceptible to addictions. Why? Because we're priming them. We're priming the population from a young age, guys. And if you're priming the population into an addiction, they'll move from one addiction to the other to the other. Don't be surprised. Because don't expect them to change when they're 25 years old, when they've been trained to eat and drink that way since they were 3 years old. So polyaddictions are very hard to treat. These are very difficult to treat. And that's why I like my addiction program, which is basically fast. Get rid of it, but fast, and don't go back onto it. Soft drinks, caffeine and sugar. Look at the combination, caffeine and sugar, 2 polysubstances. So you see, I'm not talking about one. You're addicted to 2 things. Anything you pick up, if there's a label on it, just put it away. But if you read the label, you'll see it's got all these things on it. If it's got a barcode, just put it away. If it comes in a packet, put it away. Don't eat it. Now, 57% of the energy intake in the United States population is from ultra-processed foods. Now, that should scare you. Come on, guys. If more than half the calories that you are consuming today come from processed foods, what hope do we have? What happened to real food? Our kids are going to grow up to be something we don't even know. We have to be very, very vigilant about what's happened. And this change has all happened, all within the last 80 years. All this industrialized processed foods coming on, all for your benefit and convenience, of course. Of course. So a Paleolithic diet is better than a Mediterranean diet also because grains and dairy are eliminated. Grains are not what they're made out to be. The best diets in the world are natural diets without addictive foods in it. And avoid the people and food pushes. That's a very big one. Oh yeah, she gets together with a friend or he gets together with his buddy. Next thing you know, it's the beers and the pizzas and everything comes out, right? Oh, come on, buddy, you got to do this, man. No. The answer is no. People pushes. Push people pushes away. Just put them away. Get them away. And face your delusions. Once you get off the addictions, your brain will wake up. You'll become smarter. You will see. So you know what? I tell people till I go blue in the face. But when I make them do my 3-day water fast and I get them off these, all of a sudden clarity comes. When clarity comes in you, then you are going to stick to the diet. Until then, it's a headache because it's like he told me to do that. But when you start telling yourself, I feel so much better when I do this. My brain is so much better. My energy level is so much higher. My clarity is so good. Yes, I'm going to do this. That's when we get there. And to do that, there's a price to pay. The price is you have to go through the withdrawal. You're going to face it. There's going to be a withdrawal. You're going to face the music. You got to do it. You're all going to go through withdrawal if you try this. I'm sorry. It's going to happen. Okay. Common adverse effects of breaking addictions are headaches. I get a headache, Doug. It's not going to last forever. You're going to get fatigued. Yes, you get fatigued. It's like a druggie. You're going to get drowsiness, dysphoria mood, that means a little bit of depression type symptoms, irritability, I'm really hungry, I just say, come around, I'll eat you up. Poor concentration, flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms. You actually get that, bodily flu-like symptoms. Same symptoms that a drug addict will go through. Expect it if you're a big addict and work your way through it. Put cold compressors on your body. Tell your loved one or spouse or anyone to walk you through it. Lie down, watch your favorite movie, drink lots of water, and you'll get over it. Yes, you will get over it. You won't die from it. You will not die from this addiction. That's not going to happen. So that will break your dopamine cycle. Okay? And your cravings will go away. After 3 days, your cravings are gone. And it deconstructs all the maladaptive neural pathways. New pathways will grow in your brain. You'll restore the neurochemical homeostasis. You'll restore your leptin levels. See, a lot of us have leptin resistance, just like insulin resistance. Leptin levels are so high they just don't respond anymore. Our leptin levels start coming down and start responding. increase adiponectin levels. So your whole physiology starts changing. I can talk about chemicals for hours, but basically you are restoring your chemicals and hormones back because you've become a hormonally modified human being, and you need to get back to the hormones that you're supposed to have. It rewires all your prefrontal cortex, increases brain-derived neurotropic factor. I told you that's really important. That comes when you fast. When do you get BDNF? When you fast. That's when you get BDNF. Exercise also, by the way, increases your BDNF. So one of the things that I don't know if it's on the slide, but maybe on the next slide, but you need to do some exercise, because exercise will get you through the period. So, can I exercise during my fast? Absolutely. In fact, that's when you should be exercising. When you exercise on an empty stomach, you get far more benefits than exercising on a full stomach. Okay? Right before you're going to break your fast, that's when you eat. Now, if you're eating once a day, then you exercise right before you're going to be eating, right? So let's say you eat at 7 o'clock in the evening, you go to the gym, or you go up to your gym at 6 o'clock, do your exercise, and then go and have your dinner. And none of this high starch stuff. Oh yeah, I got to starch up. No, you don't. You don't need to starch up, right? No starch. And it increases your ketogenesis and metabolic flexibility. What does that mean? Look, there are two major pathways for energy in the body, right? The glucose pathway and the ketones, right? From fatty acids. You need both. One is catabolic and one is anabolic. What does that mean? Your body cannot always be in one mode, anabolic, because you'll never get a chance to be catabolic, break down waste products and get rid of them and rebuild. When you're in ketogenesis, or when you are doing intermittent fasting, or you're doing once a day eating, right? Or any form of fasting where there's prolonged periods of time when you're not eating, minimum 16 hours. Minimum. When you're not eating for 16 hours, you're inducing some degree of autophagy in your body. Autophagy means you're recycling all your body parts. You get mitophagy. That means your mitochondria, the senescent ones die. New mitochondria will be formed when you start eating. So when you start, all of a sudden you have more energy. Why do you have more energy? Because you got new mitochondria now. The new mitochondria. After a fast, you get new mitochondria. So there you go. You get stem cell mobilization after fasting. Yeah, you get stem cell mobilization. When does that happen? After 24-hour fasts. Then when you refeed, you get refeeding reward. And that's why you feel so good after a fast has been broken. And after you feel so energetic, you're on top of the world. You're rebuilding your body. So this metabolic flexibility, where your body utilizes glucose, but then also utilizes ketones. Ketones generated how? Your insulin levels must go really low so that the fat stores can be opened up, the fats come out, they get the fatty acids, they get converted in the liver to ketones, and the ketones can be utilized by your body. They're a very nice, clean burning fuel. So we talk about that in my other lectures. But ketones are excellent. Your brain can utilize ketones too. But when you're in that state, and it's a hormetic state, hormesis means stress. It's creating that stress in your body. That stress that does not kill you makes you better and stronger. You have to become periodically ketogenic. You have to. That's how you were made. You can't be constantly in glucose, anabolic. Metabolic flexibility. Multiple fuels. My body can use multiple fuels. That's what you want. And then improves intestinal dysbiosis. Oh, this is so important. And when you do this, you're going to have the microbiome in your gut that's going to be of a wide variety and diversity. And that's what you want. Because your long-term health is very tightly knit to your microbiome. You have the wrong microbiome, you're sick. And you will not be able to be working optimally. And there's a strong signal. We can talk about this on another talk. There's a big signal between those chemicals that are released in the gut, and they go up to your brain via the vagus nerve and through your circulation, and changes the chemistry in your brain. The bacteria change the chemistry in your brain. And it's amazing stuff. Who would think that the bacterial product affects the way I feel, think, and how my brain functions? Absolutely proven. Absolutely proven. We'll talk about that on another talk. Okay, so Fasting for addiction. Why? Because it also induces autophagy. I already talked about that. Mitophagy. It induces the weight loss, positive self-esteem. I told you you're going to feel better about yourself after you've done it, because your frontal lobe's working now. And all those depressive nonsense in your brain's gone. You've worked out all those chemicals. All those counter-regulatory chemicals that built up in your brain because of the addiction and positive, dopamine, all these other chemicals have had a chance to work out. When they've worked out of your brain, now your brain can function normally. So long as you're addicted and you're constantly eating and you're dopamine, those other chemicals don't get a chance to go down. They're constantly accumulating. Hence you feel depressed, tired, fatigued, even suicidal. So you get that improved self-esteem, mood, depression, less pain, improved sleep, eliminates fatty liver, gets rid of sleep apnea. Heck, who wants to sleep with a mask all night long? I don't want to sleep with a mask all night long. Got better things to do. And this is a little bit about autophagy. Just a little slide to remind you all that autophagy, which is what comes in after you've done some fasting, especially for addicts, it induces all these positive changes, right? It cleans up the cells, so you get less infections, less fatty liver, less diabetes, less neurodegenerative changes. You get less, even cancer. Because they need food. And which food do they need most? Sugar! That's right. Sugar. So you're not feeding them sugar, they starve. Cancer cells die. Yeah. So there you go. So immune system gets better, cardiomyopathy gets better, and there's less aging. So I want to stop here because I can talk for hours on this. But you know, the purpose of talking about addiction was this, that yes, I love my fasting program and it's worked on hundreds and hundreds of patients, and I thank everybody because I get all these emails and messages saying how fantastic they feel and everything else. But I think that those who might be addicted may be missing the boat. I want to bring addiction to the forefront to let people know that down from your kids down to all of us, there's a subtle addiction. Get out of addiction. Develop metabolic flexibility. Change your habits. Become a free person who can eat when he wants or she wants and no problems. My body is flexible. If I don't eat today, I'm not going to drop dead. I have that flexibility. Develop that and you'll get all these different benefits from it. Stop eating anything that is addictive. You know all the foods that are addictive now, no processed foods basically. And get rid of all these old thoughts that we had about, you know, we were really misled. We were misled, you know. Yeah. So thank you all for being such a great audience, and look for my next one. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.